Okay, Pravda, good afternoon to you. Welcome to the business support stage. Of course, thank you so much for joining us. We had two very lively discussions this morning with our panels. So just one little bit of housekeeping. There are no fire alarms planned. If there are, don't panic, just follow Paul. He's very good, he'll lead you to safety. We do have the opportunity for you to ask some questions later on. But the panel session is in collaboration with Welsh Government, of course. It's entitled Support for Tech Innovators. Now, we are chaired by an innovation specialist. I'm sure some of you might know him. He's got 25 years experience in manufacturing and R&D and product management. I think you joined the government in 2013. So don't forget to ask the questions later on. So for now, can you please welcome our chair for this first afternoon session, Mr. Chris Probert.
Thanks, Chris, and welcome. Thanks for turning out. Hopefully you can all see us. The lectern doesn't move, so it's stuck to the ground. So yeah, the synopsis for this session only got put up on the website a couple of hours ago. So if you didn't see anything other than the title, I'll just run the synopsis by you, just so you know. So what the synopsis now says on the website is that I'll chair a panel discussion that will aim to illustrate just how Welsh Government's smart, flexible innovation, which we'll refer to as SFIS going on, because it's a bit easier, and our Circular Economy Fund could work for your organizations. Okay, so I've invited some people along today, people that I've got to know quite well over actually many years in one case, to give us some first-hand sort of client-side insight into how to best prepare yourselves for applying to the fund. So, yeah, I'm one of the Welsh Government's innovation specialists. There are currently a team of, I think, 6 of us, and we have the privilege of working with some of Wales's most innovative companies. 3 of them are here today. So, like I say, with the help of this panel, I want to hopefully give you some actionable insights to take away. First of all, to determine whether you think our support is right for you, and if that is a yes, how best then to bring forward a strong application. So SmartFIS was officially launched in June of this year, so it is a new fund. It's no longer underpinned with EU money. So this is Welsh Government's money. And like I say, I and colleagues have been given the job of making sure we invest that to the maximum positive impact. So we're looking to co-invest, and we'll talk about co-investment. That's a really important thing to highlight. We're going to look at that, and what we're interested in as a team is research, development, and innovation. So if you're not doing any research, you're not doing any development, or you're not innovating, then perhaps it's not for you. But if you are, you're in the right place. So whilst SmartFIS was launched with the view of supporting all organizations in Wales, from health boards, third sector, businesses, and others, as this is Wales Tech Week for businesses, we're going to focus on technology businesses today. So to our panel, first up, we're joined by Dr. Marie Neal, who is co-founder of Aberystwyth-based startup Vibrat-ion. And what her and her team are up to are developing a range of novel analytical instrumentation solutions. So some very neat science going on there in Aberystwyth. So welcome, Marie. Thanks for coming down. Next, we have Elliot Tanner. Elliot is the founder of Stashed Products. It's a company designing, manufacturing, and retailing a range of very innovative bicycle storage solutions. And that's currently out of the Design Centre in Mid Wales and the factory in Llanberis in North Wales. And finally, we have Valentin Canales from B2Space, a very local company based out of Newport, South Wales. Valentin is one of the 4 founders of B2Space, a space tech company headquartered just down the road. So thank you all for coming today. So let's get the discussion going. So Marie, perhaps it would be great if you don't mind to share the story of Vibrat-ion so far and the point at which you kind of approach Welsh Government. If you could give us a little bit of a discussion on that.
Okay, yes, thank you, Chris. So as Chris said, I'm one of the co-founders of Vibrat-ion. And Vibrat-ion is a tech company. We set it up we incorporated the company in July 2021. And before that, there are 4 of us, and we'd had these ideas around developing components to add on to mass spectrometers for doing chemical analyses, and we came up with a novel component, and we wanted to patent this. So my first contact with Chris was around trying to get a patent for help with patenting our novel component. So he put me in touch with the UK IPO, and I got funding through the IP audit and some other funding, IP funding.
Access.
IP access, which allowed us, first of all, to do to look at whether we did have something that was patentable, and then to go on and write the application, and then we've now patented our product. So there was that time where I wasn't really talking to Chris much, but then after that, we wanted to then prototype and build and prototype. We worked iteratively prototyping this, and again, I wrote a business plan. We had risk register. We had all sorts of documentation that I wrote around the business and around this product. And then it was how are we going to fund that? So I contacted Chris again then.
Yeah, so that's great. I think some of the things I'll pick out of that is, we started in the space of intellectual property, not an ask for any funding at all. It was just an ask for help. Okay, so we got to know each other a little bit, and what was great to know that it was something which then appeared very patentable. And the other crucial thing I think you just covered off there was that when you did then come to me saying, is there any possibility of some sort of financial support, the fact you already had a technical document, a business plan, a risk register, and there was even some idea of revenue, generation horizons, that's a great place to be starting. So yeah, I think that's why we got off to such a, quite a fast start, is because you had that in your bag already. So then what happened next?
Then we presented our a sort of pitch deck of our business and of how we wanted to progress, and we were offered level 1 funding on SFIS, and working with Chris to do this, and so we were successful, and we got a small amount of money co-funded, so we had to put 50% in, and that we spent to look at more prototyping work on our novel component, and but in that process it was clear that we still needed more development and we needed bits of kit, and so we worked on writing up another level 2 plan, and that would give us access to more funding for a longer term, and we were successful with that, just been successful with that.
Okay, that's great. A couple of things Marie's mentioned there, which I'll just go into a little bit of detail about. Since the fund launch, we've now really crystallized sort of 2 levels of funding, and Marie and her company are an example of a company that first of all came to us with a relatively small ask, which we call level 1, and that's for them to kind of build out a really robust kind of technical and commercial feasibility. There was a slight gap, wasn't there, around market research, so one of the things that they used our money for was to go and really plug the gaps in their understanding of the market. So some of the early stuff isn't going to be laboratory based or workshop based. Some of it is around pure business case and how robust that is. So yeah, I was just going to say the level. So in Marie's case, we funded with level 1 money. We can find out this stuff from me later if you like, but that was up to 25K. You didn't need that much. In fact, it was a lot less than that you needed. So just because something's 25K max doesn't mean everyone comes and asks for 25K. So your ask was measured and it was clear. And then recently, you came back to us with the plan and having shown progress, both in the lab and in the business planning, and now you've received a letter of a level 2 offer for quite a significant chunk of money. It is co-investment, so we're not writing a check on day one. These guys now have to go away and raise their side of the co-investment, but they can now proceed in the knowledge that we're good for the promise we've now made to the company to co-fund the next stage of the company's growth. So hopefully that's a couple of points covered off there. Just unlock my screen. Good, so we've covered off levels. We've covered off the fact that it's co-investment. and we've covered off the fact that you do need to bring forward, some facts and some data and some coherent business plans. So perhaps at this time I can bring in Valentin, and perhaps you could recount with us the B2Space journey so far. And like I say, I've known Valentin since July 2017, so we're still working together, I'm glad to say. And again, with SmartFizz, which launched this year, Valentin and his company have gone straight to level 2, and perhaps you can just outline why that is.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm Valentin Canales. I'm one of the co-founders of B2Space. B2Space is a company that was created by 4 engineers that we met working for Airbus, just the other side of the bridge in Bristol. And we had a very ambitious and challenging plan as well. So just to explain it briefly, Elon Musk launches satellites from the ground using its rockets. Richard Branson launched them from aircraft. We are going to launch rockets from big balloons in the stratosphere. So just to give you an idea, all of you maybe recall the Chinese balloon that was so famous a few months ago. So these kind of balloons. So that's how we started the company. And at first, when we approached the Welsh government, it wasn't, let's say, directly for asking funding directly. So we had prepared a very robust technical and commercial plan of the company, our business plan. We had presented this as well to other institutions to validate and get confirmation on the feasibility, like European Space Agency and UK Space Agency. And once we were ready to basically start and invest money in the companies, when we approached as well the Welsh government to explore which support was available for us, because it's something that as well I wanted to highlight, that there is much support other than the funding. What it is important at this stage when you are at first, for example, for us, the first 3 years, having your normal job and a side job, which is our passion. So that's what basically we got involved first to develop part of the technology that we needed to de-risk the project. So we started, as Chris mentioned, with different stages where you need first to demonstrate the technical feasibility of your project. Then you can move to the next stages where you go for industrial research and experimental development phases, where you can step by step mature your technology and get it to the market. So it's like a very, let's say, step process that as well help you construct your company, to build your company and your processes, all basically driven to get into the market at the right time.
I'll come to it, Elliot, in a minute. I'm just going to pick up on a couple of things there. So yeah, so we've been funding B2Space since 2018. They've raised millions of pounds alongside the money that we've invested, and they've created 31 jobs from zero. So we're seeing a return. So we're willing to continue to work with these guys because they're generating impacts. Okay, so my definition of innovation is doing different with impact. Okay, these guys are doing something very different, launching rockets from balloons, and they're already creating economic impact in this region of Wales. They're creating a pathway for graduates from Welsh universities to go and work for these guys. So as an investor, Welsh government, we don't take equity. We're not looking for our money back. But the kind of things that Valentin's talking about is what we look for. So, that's why, I invited Valentin to come today. One other thing is, again, part of our process with SmartFizz starting this year is we now have something we didn't have in our EU funding days, and that is a panel. We actually put together a panel of people from within Welsh Government, and we actually invite you to come and see us. It's typically been on Teams, but more than happy to do it face-to-face. So Valentin, how's the panel been? Because you have received investment from us in years gone by, and again this year. So how was that?
So I think, to be honest, it's a very good addition or a new part of the process that I valued a lot, in the sense that the Welsh Government innovation specialist and the team was asking us questions about not only the project specifically, but as well about the business plan, how it fits in our overall business strategy, but then as well how it matches with the Welsh Government agenda of, let's say, innovation, route to net zero. So as well, it makes you think about as well connecting all of those dots, because sometimes as well you are not realizing, let's say, all of those connections. But then as well, I think it is quite important that as well it helps you align as well your line of action to make sure that everything it is, let's say, well programmed and well paced.
Thanks, Elliot. You were keen to come in then, so perhaps if I haven't made you lose your train of thought, you wanted to say something.
No. You crack on, Chris.
Okay.
You crack on.
So, right, perhaps. Well, I'll ask Elliot to tell his story, but on that point about the panel, how did you find it?
Yeah, it was fine. You've obviously you've got to turn up with an idea of what you're doing. You've got to have confidence in yourself and your product and your business, and you've got to have good financial grasp, good technical grasp. It's all got to be there for you. Otherwise, these guys are here to ask hard questions, and if you don't know the answers, then that they will pick you up on it.
Yeah. So perhaps you've heard the story of Marie's business, pre-revenue as it stands today, scientific. We've heard of Valentin and his business, which is actually generating revenue through a number of revenue streams of the underpinning technology that ultimately is hopefully going to take satellites into low Earth orbit from balloons. Elliot, let's back up and let's get your story, because I think it's very interesting, because I wanted to bring a diverse range of companies to show you the kinds of things that we are open to investing in. So, Elliot.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. So we're not doing anything crazy like sending stuff into space or coming up with amazing new technology. We sell bike storage systems. It's an innovative system. We've got an interesting patent on it. But we are essentially a consumer product. We design, manufacture, and sell it from our factory in North Wales. But as I say, it's essentially it's a much simpler thing than what these guys are doing. I think when me and Chris met, we were it's probably 2 years ago.
Well, the story goes, there's another person in the room actually that was the email I received saying there's this guy called Elliot. Chris, I think you need to have a chat with him. So it was my colleague Steve from Business Wales, through whom I get a lot of good referrals. And again, whether you come direct to us at Welsh Government or whether you come through Business Wales, that's absolutely great. I mean, it's great working with Steve, and we've done lots of really good stuff up in the mid-region of Wales in particular, where we both base ourselves. So yeah, we've known each other a long time. So our first interaction was way back, and then.
Yeah, so I think it was about June 21. I think I turned up as a younger-faced entrepreneur with an idea. I had a patent application in for our product. I had a product design finished. I had tooling quoted. We were nearing the point of having a product and a business. I sold myself to Steve and Chris and the rest of the guys and said this is happening. And at that point, we weren't quite ready for R&D funding, but they were they listened to me and took me on board. But they pushed me around the rest of the Welsh Government funding, and that sent us off into funding for trade missions, trade shows, market research. And once we got all through that, that was probably start of 2023. We kind of came back to you, and at that point, it was much more. It was the right time to talk about R&D. Up until that point, we probably wouldn't have had the time, resources, people, premises to actually fulfill what we were talking about. But yeah, we put our smart fizz in start of Jan kind of time, and now we've been awarded it from April onwards. And we've been in the project for now 5 months. We're at a point now where we're getting our grants paid, and it's been a pretty simple process. It's been brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It's allowed us to take risks with R&D. As a new business, we were generating sales, but we weren't necessarily generating enough sales every month to get the confidence to keep spending money on R&D. So we'd have a really good month, and I'd put a load of money into R&D, and then the next month sales would dip, and we go, ooh, I think we'll just tone back the spending that month. Whereas now we've got the confidence of the Welsh Government. They've essentially been like an investor for us, and they've put their money in, we've put our money in, and we keep spending money each month on R&D because we know long term it's the right thing to do. So we're about 3-4 months into it now, and it's been going really well.
In fact, we have a quarterly review meeting tomorrow.
We do.
So we'll be looking and tracking the progress they're making, and they'll be putting a claim in just after, probably.
Yeah.
The claim comes in, and then obviously, having had the review, I'm minded to keep supporting them. So, sometimes projects get canned, and sometimes, failing fast is the best way to fail. So, not every project is going to be coming out with, accolades and stuff, but so far so good. And just want to pick up on a few of Elliot's points there. The reason we invested in Elliot is, at the time that we did, is he'd gained traction. He was selling, I think he was selling more in the US than you were in the rest of Europe when we...
Yeah, so when we first started, we were just selling to the UK. That was, I think, March 22. We had pretty minimal sales. And then about August 22, things just went absolutely crazy from some social media posts. And we started selling all around the world. We're now about 75% export, which again is something the Welsh government love to see, because we're putting Wales onto the map with high quality Welsh manufacturing.
Yeah, and I was going to say, one lovely article I saw very early on, what is Wales about, and sustainability is high up there. Unprompted by me, Elliot did a lovely piece in the media around his aluminium supplier. Unfortunately, there's no one in Wales yet who can extrude what you want, but the choice you made was just over the border in Gloucestershire, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, and they pride themselves on the recycled content in it. So again, it was another nice feature of what Elliot's doing, is he's very considerate of the supply chain that he's building. It's very Welsh. Most of the stuff that you buy, certainly all the assembly and the machining is all done in Wales as well. So you're building a wholly Welsh supply chain where possible, which is really good.
I think when we turned up with you, I think I wouldn't say we had the whole package of what you guys were looking for, but we'd thought about it all. We'd thought about where to manufacture it, how to manufacture it, how to do the best job within Wales, how to protect their IP, how to grow it. I think that's probably the point you're trying to get to, Chris, with that.
Yeah. So again, our offer is only one offer at Welsh Government. So you've heard a little bit about how we interact with the Business Wales team, and they often do a fantastic job of getting things knocked into shape so that we can then make timely decisions. So that one of the key messages, and I'll probably say it again in my wrap-up, is that if you can get to the point of presenting something that's A, written down, B, based on fact and data where you have it. Don't worry if you haven't got it all, because we could look at level 1 funding. Level 1 funding is about plugging in or plugging the gaps that you may have yet to get to. And if we can accelerate you to getting those gaps filled and a business plan fleshed out, that's a good, in my opinion, that's a good use of our funding. But just being mindful of when to approach us and with what. I think they're the two. If there's nothing else you remember from today, it's about when and what you consider bringing forward. So, looking at my notes, I just wanted. I mean, it's not been all, bed of roses. There are bumps in the road, and there are pressures on your time. So, I remember one time I asked you for something in late January, I think it was, and you were very busy at the time dealing with your international sales, and you'd just taken. I hadn't been working with you long, and I said, "Oh, can you do just in your pitch deck? Can you do a bit more on this?" And you said, "Oh." But, tell a little story.
Yeah, we were pretty busy. Yeah, we were pretty busy. So, I ended up having basically to employ a person. January time this year, sales have gone absolutely fantastically all around the world. I went full time into the business. We decided to do the Smart Fizz application, but the reality is, as a founder, someone still working day to day in the business, it was too much for me to do by myself. So I think what I'd say is you've got to plan accordingly with resources. There's the financial side, there's the physical resources, premises, stuff like that, but the resources human-wise to actually get the application done, do the market research, put it all together, do your presentations, it does take some effort. It's not complex. If you know your business, you know your numbers, you know what your vision is for 2 years' time, 5 years' time, it's fine. These guys aren't going to ask you for stuff you don't know. But at the same time, certainly as a small business, it's really good to do this as well. So for me, we probably at that point wouldn't have had a solid business plan. We wouldn't have written it all down. We wouldn't have put the numbers to it. So actually, these guys have asked for that, and it's been a really good process to go through. It's not wasted time, and it's all good due diligence. Certainly, for us to prove that we've got potential.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because a lot of the stuff that you create for us is exactly the same stuff the Bank of Wales are going to ask you for. Any private investor, Valentin, you've raised money from government organizations across Europe, and also private capital. So, there's things we're asking for.
Yeah, to be honest, it's pretty similar in the sense, at least in the concept, because you need to provide cash flow projections, as well profit and loss for the future years. And when you're a startup, you plan this year, but you know that in 12 months' time you will have to replan because things don't always go to the plan. So, but it's important to plan, right? If you don't plan, you're planning to fail. That's what you said, right? So basically, that helps you as well with this, let's say, business visibility. But then other aspect that I found interesting is that when preparing the claims to get paid as well, we had to prepare all of the expenses list as well, project codes, basically track everything. And when you started to get bigger and bigger, your projects start being, I don't know, for £500,000, £1 million, as well helps you be more structured in the way that you track your own projects. Because when you're a startup at first with a few people, everything is very chaotic and you just manage things on the go. But as you grow, you realize that, well, I have to structure this somehow. And as well, this discipline as well that you get from let's say, from preparing the claims and getting that is something that sometimes, you don't think about that, but it is very important.
That's great. Any comments from you? You're still quite early compared to these guys, because Elliot's an exception in that Elliot was generating revenue when he came to us with the ask. So he was able to evidence real cash flow. Yours was investor promises. You had letters of intent and secured private capital. So we liked that because it meant that our letter was going against some real money, not imaginary money that was, somewhere at the end of the rainbow. It was real. And in your case, to date, you and your co-founders are self-funding. So obviously with a view to raising, but again, we could literally see your money. So it was worth my while because I knew these guys were serious. So Marie.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo what Valentin and Elliot have both said. Being prepared, having a plan, and being realistic, and realizing that, I was working another job and trying to set this up as well. I have two other founding members and we're working together. But we have to commit to this, but also we have to be able to fund it. So it's a lot of hard work, but it's if you're passionate about what you're doing, it doesn't feel like hard work. It just takes time, and it's all with the support of Welsh Government. It's really quite a nice process. So having the business plan is something you have to have, but it focuses your mind and it focuses what you're doing, what you know you're doing, but you get it written down, and then you can communicate it to other people better, and then they're more likely to want to invest or to help in it anyway. So it's a necessary process. And the other thing that I think people might forget is that having a risk register, like Chris mentioned, we'd put that together because we've applied for grant funding in the past, and you need one of those anyway, and Gantt charts and plans and all that. But it is a useful thing to be able to refer back to. A high risk for us is not employing high quality staff who can do the lab work that we might need. So thinking about what would happen if you didn't have that. So just think around all of those things. And
great. So I've just done a time check, and I'm just going to go back to the synopsis and just before we move to questions and answers. So at the top of the session, we said, how is the Welsh Government Smart Flexible Innovation Support working for you today? And I think we've had lots of insights into how it is working for you, continues to work for you. Is there anything else you want to add to that? So in terms of that support, I think you've covered that off, unless anyone wants to say anything else. And then the second part of our goal today with this session, well, really was to maybe, I think you've all said it, but just to recap before we're going to open up in a section in a minute to Q&A section. Any advice and tips for the audience you can share about how to best prepare for a successful, because you've all been successful. Someone asked me how many applications do you reject? And we do reject. Not everyone that comes to us makes it. Some people pull out of their own choice because I guess they've worked out it's not the right time, what we said earlier about when and what. Sometimes the what isn't there, and sometimes it's the wrong time. So we have, but I think those that actually get to panel, we have a very, very high success rate at that point. So before we look for questions from the floor, is there any sort of top tip? Marie, as you've got the mic, do you want to go first?
Okay. Just be prepared. If you've got a good idea and you know your idea, be prepared to communicate it well and be passionate about it, and have a bit of a plan. I think those are important things. And then you get a lot of support from Welsh Government, or I've had a lot of support from Chris, and it is useful, but don't overburden Welsh Government. Don't ask them all the time. Be prepared and be focused, I think.
From my point of view, I would say that first you need to understand as well your company, what your company is offering to your customers, and how you're going to offer that. If it is a product, a technology, a service, so you have to have all of those clear things out. And then as well, what actions you need to take to get there. It will be investing in new technology, new manufacturing processes. So write those things down, start putting a plan, then as well put that into basically numbers, how many people that will require on this first year, how much I will have to be budgeting, have a robust basically business plan that asks you questions to yourselves, and then once you think you got it as well, go and look for help available that as well that will help you, let's say, on the final steps. But a lot of preparation work.
Anything to add, Elliot?
Not a massive amount more. No, I think that covers most of it. The only thing I would say is just treat them like an investor. And if an investor wouldn't buy in, then these guys aren't going to buy in either. So it's
I like that.
But prepare like Dragon's Den.
Great. So we're at about 30 minutes. So on a bit. So any questions?
Hello there. My name is Kimberly Littlemore from eHealth Digital Media. We've done our business plan. We're writing our application. I've tried to sign up to one of the surgeries and I've been told there's nothing till next year. So it's just really, how do we get to you?
Yeah, you're the second person. Our surgeries are, I mean, one of the gateways in. I mean, Steve and the team at Business Wales are a gateway in. What the surgeries are doing is pretty much what we've been talking about here, is about getting you ready to make that really good first impression. Occasionally we get an application which really is, some of them will look like car crashes. They're just unworkable, and that causes a lot of problems for us because we have a finite team. We cannot hold your hand through those very basic first steps. And I think the surgeries are about getting you to think like what the panel have mentioned today, really get those things. So if you're at that point, maybe I'll regret saying this, but you don't have to come through those panels. You can approach Business Wales. You can approach us directly. If you're confident that what these guys have illustrated is what we actually look for is there, then please don't wait until the new year. Get in touch. We have a stand in the main arena. It's near the entrance at the far end, so please do come and see us. It's branded Business Wales. I and my colleagues are there every day this week. So please, let's have a conversation. So if you're ready, that would be good.
Anybody else like to ask a question? Just wait for the mic to come. No? Anybody? Sure?
What I'm going to do, if I may, today I've brought along 3 examples of the recipients of Smart Fizz, SFizz, the Smart Flexible Innovation Support. I did mention as well that I and my colleagues are also responsible for the Circular Economy Fund, which is another significant commitment by Welsh Government to invest in circular economy business models, research and development in the domain of circular economy. If you go on the Business Wales website, if you just Google Business Wales Innovation, you're one click away from information about the Circular Economy Fund. So if some of you are building businesses that have a very strong, actually, Valentin, I can bring you back in a minute, that can demonstrate an alignment to our circular economy goals as a government, then actually we have an uplift of funding you could benefit from both the innovation funding and the circular economy funding. And in fact, the circular economy funding can extend beyond that of the R&D funding, because to scale a business with a circularity proposition can require quite a huge investment. So actually, we're funding a project currently at B2Space, which is all about sustainable rocket fuel, basically, isn't it? So whilst we're funding the current stage with innovation money, there's a lot of circularity features in your project which could benefit from that. So that's like an added bonus. If your businesses or your ideas are very circular, please consider. And the great thing is that our application process, it's the same application. If what we see in front of us is screaming circular economy, we will look at it through that lens, through the appraisal criteria we have for that fund, and then award appropriately. So again, please don't worry about too many. There are two routes into our funding, level 1, level 2, and that could be both for the innovation and or the circular economy fund. So again, there's lots on the website. I and my colleagues, I'm more than happy to have a quick phone call with you just to orientate you and point you in the right direction. And then we want you to go away and bring back all the great stuff the guys have said we need to see. But yeah, the reason I haven't got anyone on here that's receiving circular economy fund is in my portfolio, I don't have anyone yet. So it is brand new. It was only launched in June. I have a number of really exciting projects in the pipeline, but we haven't got to the stage yet of making an award. But there are lots of businesses in Wales, I'm glad to say, that have got some really, really novel and in many cases unique circular economy propositions. So if that's you, have a look at that as well.
Chris, now that as well that you mentioned that project, I've remember another tip and as well that I wanted to give to all of you, if that's okay. It is that you mentioned about the circular economy fund, link as well to the R&D. Sometimes you may think of your product or your service for a specific, let's say, market, but sometimes if you think, let's say, well, out of the box or as in sideways, there could be other opportunities. So we were focused only on, let's say, launching rockets from balloons, but then as well, we started to do testing in balloons. We started to do putting cameras on balloons to make them, let's say, spy balloons, let's say. And then as well, we started to develop our own propellant, let's say, as well to propel our rockets. And then as well, investigated in how to make it more sustainable. And by finding, let's say, this kind of combination of a more sustainable propellant, we are coming up, let's say, with a recipe that we are going to be able, let's say, not only to use for ourselves, but to sell to other, let's say, space companies. So as well, and we will be talking to Chris about how the circular economy fund could support, let's say, the next phases, how to develop all of the propellant, let's say, in Wales, the whole supply chain, how to sell it internationally. So as well, not just focus on only one thing, and as well, there could be other opportunities around.
Okay. We were in the green room. It felt very strange. I was in a green room before this, and we were having a general chat. And one thing I wanted to mention is that I don't know if any of you are familiar with Horizon Europe. It is the European sort of innovation fund. I think it's worth about 100 billion euros over the next 7 years. On the 7th of September, it was announced that the UK is joining that scheme, because obviously since EU exit, there's been a long hiatus of understanding where we are as the UK in regards to that. And I know that at least two of you sat to my left will be looking at opportunities presented by the Horizon Europe funding. Now, we have colleagues within Welsh Government that are dedicated to supporting Welsh businesses collaborate on projects within Horizon Europe. So again, please use me and my colleagues if you're interested or have a proposition that is a good fit for the Horizon Europe work plan. Please do allow us to kind of use the resources that we have to support you, because what we as Wales want is as many Welsh participants in Horizon Europe as possible. So yeah, I just want to make sure that you understood that we're not just about investing our own money, we're about supporting you go after money at the Innovate UK level. I know there was a keynote this morning from Indra from Innovate UK. Wales has a special MOU with Innovate UK to try and drive more of the UK's innovation money into Wales. And it goes beyond those borders of the UK. It is also, we want to see companies here, and hopefully we'll see some on this stage, actually leveraging in some of the EU monies, which we're now entitled to apply for. So that's it from me. Remember maybe 4 things: when to come to us and what to bring. And we're about R&D, research, development, and innovation, doing different with impact. And I think if you can remember just those things, if you're not doing different with impact, are you innovating? And that was it, really. Any last thoughts from you? I can see the moderator's about to call time on us. Oh, actually, it's not too bad.
Right, okay.
Or have you got a question for us?
Absolutely not. No. Would anybody like to ask
Any last
question before we leave?
Is there anything I've said in the last bit there that's piqued your interest? I mean, happy to see you on the stand in a few minutes.
No.
But if not,
Okay, well, in which case then, can we have a round of applause, please, for Chris and the panel? Thank you so much. So we have one more session this afternoon at 4 o'clock, digital safeguarding. By all means, put photos, comments on social media, use the hashtag Wales Tech Week as well. So thank you so much for attending today. Thank you to Chris, thank you to the panel. Come and join us at 4 o'clock and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you. Diolch.